But if you listen to Newsday regularly, you may remember a story we brought you a couple of weeks ago. A United Airlines Flight 880 forced to make an emergency landing after experiencing severe turbulence. That was as it was flying over the Atlantic. It's going from Houston to London Heathrow. This is one of the people on board.
This was capital T turbulence. There were 4 dramatic drops in altitude. The plane just fell what felt like 1,000 feet. And then a split second later, it did that again, a total of 4 times. And the only warning we had was a little bit of a shudder before the first one, and then this tremendous turbulence.
Well, in the end, 12 people were so seriously injured they actually had to be taken to hospital on landing. But how likely or how often will airplanes experience something of that magnitude? Well, according to scientists, incidents like this are on the rise, and they're blaming climate change. Dr. Paul Williams is a Royal Society Research Fellow at the University of Reading, and he's been studying this link.
It's the carbon dioxide that we're putting into the atmosphere through our burning of fossil fuels that is changing the temperature patterns. In fact, not just at ground level, but also higher up in the atmosphere too. So in a nutshell, the CO2 is causing the temperature to change. The temperature changes are causing the wind patterns to change, and the wind patterns are causing more turbulence to break out in the atmosphere.
Right, that's the theory. And have you got evidence?
There's a number of studies now that have looked at this historically. I've seen statistics showing that the number of accidents caused by turbulence has grown by a factor of 5 since 1980, and that's 3 times faster than the growth in air traffic. There have been other studies looking at, a Swiss study in particular found that the amount of clear air turbulence increased by up to 90% between 1958 and 2001, and that's in the North Atlantic and the USA and in Europe. And finally, there have been other studies looking at actual pilots' reports of turbulence over the USA and over Asian airspace, and they found an increase too. Now, our study has been looking towards the future, using supercomputer simulations of climate models, and we've calculated that there's likely to be twice as much clear air turbulence on transatlantic flights specifically by the time the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere doubles. And quite when we hit that level remains to be seen, but we're talking about in the coming decades, certainly.
Right, and how dangerous would that be? I mean, you're saying there that it does cause accidents, but I think most of us assume it just to be somewhat uncomfortable normally.
Well, that's a very important point, Tom. We know that flying is statistically a very safe form of transport. Even flying in turbulence, as you say, usually only affects passengers' comfort rather than their safety. And the proof of that is that there's only 1 serious injury caused by turbulence for every 1 million flight departures. So your chances of being injured by turbulence are very small. Having said that, the scientific evidence is telling us now that it would be sensible, I think, to start planning for a future in which there could be perhaps twice as much turbulence in the atmosphere as there has been historically.
That's Dr. Paul Williams on the link between climate change and air turbulence.